An exceptionally important part of any story is the motivation behind the actions of its characters. Even if entertained by the story but find the character's motivation to be unconvincing or inconsistent, we are thrown off. On the contrary, when the motivation is strong, relatable, and well written, even a story about a mundane situation can captivate us. Naturally, different stories present different kinds of motivation, from self-served, reward-oriented characters to serving the larger community out of the strong belief in the greater good. And you guessed it, I'm making a diagram of motivation. So let's cover the basics first. The horizontal axis represents the individual/collective duality of motivation. On the individual side, a person is concerned about oneself, while on the collective side, about the well-being of the community one is a part of. The vertical axis shows intrinsic-extrinsic duality of motivation. On the intrinsic side, the deed motivates you just by itself, while on the extrinsic one, the deed promises a reward or lack of punishment. Let's move to quadrants. This one is individual intrinsic. This is the place for your passions, hobbies, anything that would make you feel fulfilled. This is something that one would do just for the sake of doing it. Most commonly, it is about hobbies, individual beliefs, and personal growth. Steve Rogers, in his back alley fight in The First Avenger, is acting out of this motivation. He's not yet able to protect anyone, but he's willing to protect his beliefs, and his "I can do this all day" expression fits it perfectly. Another example is John Wick in the first chapter. He is not exactly threatened by the mob. There will be no reward at the end, and it's not even about protecting all dogs from that psycho. He's avenging something that he held sacred. And judging by how well received the movie is, this motivation is more than just understandable. This one is individual extrinsic. This is about external motivational factors, like reward or avoiding punishment. Your pursuit of the salary, social recognition, or any other prize falls into this category. Han Solo, for the good part of A New Hope, is exactly motivated by this. He takes the job for the money that he needs to avoid the punishment for his past failures. Then, inside the Death Star, he is willing to save Princess Leia only after the promise of another immense reward. To be fair though, his motivation transforms at the end of the movie. Another good example is Louis Bloom from Nightcrawler. The whole movie is basically about him pursuing bigger and bigger rewards, no matter the cost, especially when others have to pay for his gains, and his motivation does not change for the full duration of the film. Moving on to the collective side of the diagram, this one is collective extrinsic. This is a quadrant of collective efforts, aimed at some common goals and benefits, or avoiding a grand catastrophe. People have engaged in collective efforts for the whole duration of history, and this one is a very popular motivation. King Leonidas in 300 is exercising this motivation. He loves his country and is willing to protect it from invaders, even when the price is his life. His deeds aim not only at the protection, but also at inspiring unity and courage among his fellow Spartans, thus pursuing collective extrinsic motivation on multiple directions at once. Alternatively, Thanos from MCU is also motivated by this. He fears that if life in the universe is left unchecked, it will consume all resources all too quickly, dooming everything and everyone. And the motivation to avert this grand catastrophe makes him a subject of this category. This one is collective intrinsic. When people work for the collective cause out of shared belief that this is the way to go, they are representing this category. This is about putting community above oneself and being willing to take on challenges out of deep desire to serve to people you love and respect. And, if possible, enjoy the time spent together in the process, however tough and brutal it may be. Samwise Gamgee is one of those people. While he is concerned about an approaching catastrophe in the face of Sauron, he has shown on multiple occasions that he's doing it out of his deep belief in the good in Middle-earth, and he was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice if needed. Gandalf is in this category too, and so is Aragorn. And you know what? Almost all characters in Lord of the Rings are in this exact quadrant, but the common motivation does not take anything away from the story. On the contrary, it is one of the best stories ever told. Could it show that this is the best motivation to have? That we all deeply aspire to be like that? Doesn't such motivation bring out the best in people, give so much needed sense of belonging, and yield remarkable results? Well, I guess it's up for everyone to decide for themselves. But I sure do choose this one as the best. Speaking of it, I feel I need to provide some theories that could help one rank those motivations. One of such theories is self-determination theory of motivation. It's quite complicated, but essentially it states that people are driven to fulfill three most crucial needs: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. As you could guess from the names, two of them are solely individual goals, and only the third one is somewhat about community, clearly favoring individual motivation. As for the other axis, self-determination theory puts intrinsic motivations higher arguing that it will inevitably lead to better results in the long run. But it doesn't dismiss extrinsic motivation either. It acknowledges that extrinsic motivation can also be very productive and often is necessary. Maslow's hierarchy of needs also can be used in this context. The bottom stage, physiological needs, corresponds to the individual extrinsic motivation. And the next stage, safety needs, suggests half individual, half collective extrinsic motivation. As we go further, love and belonging is also about half collective, half individual, but this time intrinsic motivation. And the last two stages definitely point at individual intrinsic motivation. Though personally I crowned collective intrinsic motivation, I do not particularly disagree with what those theories suggest. The motivation is a complex subject, and outside of fiction, it is a lot more nuanced than just making one motivation the ultimate good. And yes, you may have noticed that in my examples I didn't bring up any real person. This also is because in real life people do experience all sorts of motivation, and rarely are in one quadrant for the whole life. If anything, the two-quadrant zone could somewhat help us with placing real people on that diagram. I call this zone self-driven, and it exists on the intersection of personal interests and rewards. David Goggins was here, until he made motivating others for greatness his mission. Pragmatist. Fairly obvious here, it is about pursuing rewards on both personal and collective front. Jeff Bezos could serve as an example here. Team player is about collaboration and pursuit of collective goals. I want to put Elon Musk here. While he is surely motivated by all sorts of things, his ideas and efforts to make colonies on Mars definitely grant him the right to be here. And the last one is passionate collaborator. Putting intrinsic values above else, it is about achieving deep personal and collective goals. Jordan Peterson is here, pursuing his own passion for understanding human behavior and helping others find meaning and purpose in their lives. I think it is important for everyone to understand what motivates them in this particular stage of life, as it would make their path clearer. I hope you found this diagram helpful, or at least entertaining. As usual, I do not claim anything here to be an absolute truth, as I simply share my thoughts and observations. What do you think about it?